sparkling red balloons. It all started with me going into labor very prematurely. My water broke at 22 weeks, which is just a little bit over 5 months pregnant. As you know, full-term pregnancy is 9 months, so I was just about halfway there. When I got to the hospital, I was too far gone to stop it. Usually what they'll try to do is stop the labor. We got to the hospital about 7 o'clock, and at 9:15 she was born. She weighed 14 ounces, less than a pound, so she wasn't even a pound. Doctors told me that she was the smallest baby they had ever incubated or ever did so much for that they could save. We spent 4 months in NICU. She was rushed to NICU. She spent 4 months there. She came home on December 6th. Her due date was the 15th. The NICU was a roller coaster. However, when I look back on it now, it was so much growth. You know, it was a roller coaster that taught me so much about life. And I made friends and family there that I still talk to this day. Anything that you can possibly think of that possibly could have went wrong with Miracle, it did. From her brain, to her eyes, to her breathing, to her heart, to her genitalia, to everything. I mean, her skin, everything, breathing, everything. We went through, everything was like a see if she could or see if it would. We don't know if it will, but we're going to try our best. And that's the kind of roller coaster that we went on with everything. She had a stage 3-4 brain bleed at the very beginning. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but usually babies that have that, they kind of end up in a vegetable stage. You know, that's what they told us. But we prayed about it. We had a lot of faith about it. And the nurses and the doctors stood in faith with us that things were going to work out. And the day before her scheduled surgery on her brain, it miraculously went down. And she's never had that issue ever again. One day I remember coming into the hospital, and there were doctors. Anybody that's familiar with the NICU unit knows when you see doctors surrounding your baby and the lights are on, that's a scary situation. And I remember one time coming in and there was a doctor standing over her, and he had on a pair of jeans, and I'm thinking, who is this man with jeans on? And a doctor from another department just happened to be here when the fluid got around her heart. And I was just thinking about how he just came in and just stepped in. And I remember different doctors told us if he had not been here that day, you know, we don't know what would have happened. And every obstacle just kept happening just like that, where something huge would come and then someone would just step in. Something would just happen, you know, a miracle would just happen. That's why we named her it, because when she was born, everyone kept saying, we need a miracle. We're going to need a miracle. It's going to need to take a miracle. They gave her a 2% chance at life. When I first got here, that's what they told me. They said, we can either go forward, or it's up to you. It's about a 2% chance that she'll make it. And I said, we're going to go for the 2%, you know. And you see what happened with the 2%. Every time something would come that was like life-threatening. We had so many life-threatening moments that just miraculously just, you know, became okay. And so there was no other name for her but Miracle. So because we needed a miracle, and we got it. Whenever I'm asked that question, the first thing I think about is my birth of my next child. We lived in another part of Michigan, and so when I was pregnant, I went through my normal proceeding. I was high risk pregnancy, but when I got to the hospital, this is what they told me when they heard about Miracle. They told us we wouldn't even try. I've been to 2 different hospitals where they have told me we wouldn't have even tried. It would not have been up to discussion, you know, it just wouldn't have done it. I've been told twice that our cutoff is at 23 weeks. Miracle was a 22-weeker. So 2 different hospitals told me they wouldn't have tried. Hurley came up to me and they said to me, "Do you want to try?" And I said yes, and they gave it their best shot. So that's Hurley. That's what the Children Miracle Network is all about. I always tell people that what I most appreciate about Hurley is I stood in faith and they just followed me. Miracle is a very special little girl. You know, it's like she carries her name well. She has this thing where she makes people love her. And Miracle's favorite spot is Paige's playroom. In ICU, she could barely fit this diaper. It was too big, so what the nurses would do, they would just lay it down and just lay her on top of it. They used to take her vitals, and this was of course too big to fit on her arm, so they would put it around her leg, most of the time her thigh, lower leg area. And I remember the little red light that was used when they took the vitals, and at that time I just remember how her legs and her skin was so transparent that when the little red light would come on, it would make her whole leg turn red. That's how thin her skin was. The wow factor of the whole experience was that I watched her develop. That's everything. Every time I look back on it, I think about what a privilege that was to actually watch her develop. You know, usually all that stuff would have happened, you know, inside me, but I sat there and I came in and I watched her develop piece by piece by piece.